Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Workstream 1, which is the Capturing Digital Evidence session. So last chances, make sure you're in the right room. Okay, good. So really what we want to do today, first of all, just in terms of introduction, this is kind of slightly surreal for me, because as an account manager, we talk all day, yet we don't normally get involved in presentations. So this is a new one for us. So my name is Barry Porter. I sit within the account management team. I'm going to be joined today by Emma Richards, who heads up the training and documentation team, and my colleague Ian Brumford at the back there, who will also be facilitating during the course of the session. Okay, just really sort of go through the actual breakdown of the session. I'll do a quick intro into the background of what we want to talk about. Then following that, I'm going to hand over to Emma. And so Emma's going to take you through the functionality which exists within Surpass at the moment. That's sort of two parts we really want to sort of look at, which is the computer-based project element, but also the file attach functionality as well. So they're the sort of the two areas. Because I think one of the things we're mindful of is that those two areas are being sort of adopted by specific AOs, but we're convinced that there's other AOs that can make sort of good use of that. So we want to hear from you later on in the session. Okay. So we're also delighted that AAT and AQA have joined us. So Saeed will join us after Emma's session, where really he'll be taken through the computer-based project functionality. So if you remember for those that came along last year, Marie from AAT sort of introduced CBP and how AAT were going to use that. So this is really a year on. So it'll be useful for those that attended last year to hear how AAT are getting on. And then from a sort of different sort of perspective, general qualifications. We're really pleased that Dave can join us for sort of the follow-on session after Saeed, where we pick up sort of the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead, if you like, as part of the GCSE and A-level reforms. Okay, so that just gives you just an insight into the sort of those sessions there. I suppose at the end, the final bit is going to be just handing over to yourself. So based on what you sort of see and you hear from us today, it's sort of seeing if there's things in there that you already use, and maybe there's gaps in there that you can think of that maybe it's useful for the past to plug. And so there's a final group session. Okay, so we'll be asking you within your sort of groups or neighbours to basically just get some of those thoughts down, and depending on time we can pick up on any questions that you might have there. Does that seem okay so far? Yeah. Okay. So just in terms of introduction, one of the things I suppose when we think about Surpass, we probably think of it more as summative assessment. That's probably the sort of the main thing that we consider when we think about Surpass there. And that's probably, there's twofold there. That's either a candidate that's taking an on-screen, on-demand test, or perhaps from a sort of general qualification perspective, a hall full of students that are taking their GCSE or A-level papers on physical paper booklets. And so I suppose to date, Surpass hasn't really been involved in too much of the sort of the coursework element side of things, but that does certainly seem to be changing. So obviously for the vocational sector, that sort of element, you're kind of leading on that in terms of vocational, but certainly there's conversations that we're having around the coursework side of things for general qualifications as well. The sort of things like spoken English, foreign languages and music, etc. So I suppose, from my perspective, since I joined in 2010, there's been a steady sort of interest in that functionality there. But it's probably sort of over the last year or so that we've seen sort of much more interest from vocational, but more so on the general qualification side. So we'll cover that off in our demonstration today. I mean, there's sort of probably the main things that we've picked up on. 11.2 saw the file attach functionality that we put in there. So do people use file attach of the AOs? Yeah. So OCR, City and Guilds. Okay. And so, as it suggests, the idea that the candidate can use native programs things that they're more familiar with. They can open up Word, they can open up Excel, they can edit documents, and they can upload that as part of their assessment. And so in 11.4, we saw the introduction of CBP, computer-based projects. So that was really about the sort of extending the assessment window. It wasn't just about a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour test. It was about having a window which was maybe 3-6 months. And so that ability to have the opportunity for a candidate to attach coursework during that period of time, and then at the end of that period, it gets to a sort of countdown, if you like, and then at the end, it's submitted almost like a computer-based test. So, as I said earlier on, today I don't suppose that functionality is used widely, and that's the bit that we want to sort of highlight as part of this session today. Get your sort of thoughts on what you see, and get those thoughts sort of, we'll talk about those towards the end of the session there. So I think at that point, I'm going to hand over to Emma. Emma's going to run through the demonstration, and then Syed and Dave will then pick up on the guest speaker slots.
Okay, so thanks, Barry. I think Barry introduced me, but just to explain to those of you who I don't know, my name's Emma Richards, and I'm the lead of the documentation training team at BTL. So we produce all the reference guides and the help, and my team also deliver the training to Surpass customers. So I'm here to show you some of the main functions around computer-based projects first, and also some of the file attach functionality. It's going to be quite a brief demo. I'm not going to get to look in too much detail, so if you do have questions, either catch me at the end or just let me know later and we'll arrange a demo. Okay? Okay, so to begin, what do we mean by computer-based project? So I suppose the easiest way to explain it is to point out the differences from traditional exams. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, is it echoing? Is it okay? So your traditional exams, I'm sure you've all seen Surpass exams before. If you haven't, you've probably seen at least a demo. And they're typically, they happen on a particular session, particular day, and they last for a number of hours or minutes. In contrast, a computer-based project usually takes place over days, weeks, or even months. And during that time, the candidate can log in, log out as many times as they want, and they can keep making changes to their work. Okay. So it's accessed a little differently. They can keep going in and out. It has a different duration, and of course tends to move towards different question types. So your file attach functionality is probably the main one. Obviously, that allows the candidates to upload whatever they've been working on, be it in Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Okay. So just to give you some ideas of what computer-based projects might be suitable for, obviously the ability to log in, log out whenever you want lends itself quite well to learning journals, where they might submit something one week and then submit another piece of work the week after, and just keep working on that throughout the term. We've also got the coursework, obviously file attach, allowing you to upload Word documents really lends itself to longer essays and the submission of those. And then also you've got your more traditional portfolios, any research projects where they're pulling materials together. Okay, so I've got a little video which just shows you a little bit of a computer-based project. So I might have to pause as I go along, so bear with me. Okay. Okay, so you'll be able to see that it is a familiar environment. Key code screen looks exactly as it always has. The only difference being that they can use that key code to go in and out. So once they go through the main screens, yellow, sorry, you'll see that it looks very similar, but I think probably some of the main differences you'll notice is obviously you've got your project deadline at the top. So at this stage it's showing the deadline, which is a few months away. As they get into that last day, it starts to show a countdown, so they know they're running up to their deadline and they need to submit. Of course, if they get to that deadline and they've not submitted any work they've done so far, will just be automatically uploaded. You can see in this one that a couple of questions are already attempted, the grades 2 and 3 on the side. So you can see they've already gone in, they've done some work, and then they've come back in. This example is just to show that as well as being able to upload, you can also attach files yourself. So this has a PDF attached to it. And then the next question that you'll see after this is one where they're actually uploading their own files. Yeah, so you can see here they've just got the upload button, and then they just use their computer to browse to the file they want to upload. In this case, it's a Word document. And then once they've found the file, they upload it into Surpass, and they've got all the usual rename, replace it, and they can download it and change it if they want. So it's not that they're stuck once they've submitted the file, they can change it. So you can also see it works with all the traditional Surpass question types. So if you wanted to have essay questions, multiple choice, anything in the computer-based project, you can do that. Okay. So you'll notice in the top right corner, we've got the close button. So obviously with a computer-based project, you need to come in and out. So when they click close, they do get the option of whether they want to finish it and submit it for marking, or whether they want to return it to it later. So it does kind of double check with them what they want to do. So there's no risk of it being accidentally submitted too early. If it is, we do have measures in place to help with that, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay. So these are just some of the file types that you can use in Surpass Release 12 at the moment. So as you can see, it's all the typical Microsoft Office file types that you can work on. Give it up on me. So I just also, before I finished, wanted to pick out a few additional features that we've put in around computer-based projects that are quite useful and designed specifically for that kind of assessment. So we've got the ability to upload forgotten files. So I talked about if they submit by mistake and maybe they've forgotten to upload one of their essays, the markers or the moderators can actually do that for them now and add additional files, and it's all recorded and audited who's done that. So we've also got, obviously, long-term assessments. It might be that a candidate moves, they change centre, things happen during a long period of time, so we've introduced the ability to change the centre that the exam's associated with partway through. Obviously, for project assessments, you might need to do that. And then, of course, just things like being able to change the submission date if personal circumstances change, illness, things like that. You can actually extend the deadlines. So lastly, just before I hand over, just to point out a few key benefits really of using Surpass for this type of assessment. So you might find it's good that it's a familiar process. Those of you who use Surpass already, you'll be familiar with the authoring, the exam creation. It's very similar. The process is almost completely the same. So there's nothing new to learn there. And also for the candidates, if they're taking their assessments within Surpass, why not take their project assessments as well? Oh, sorry. And then, of course, using one system reduces costs, not just for the system, but also with regard to training people up. You can use all the Surpass functionality, all the question types, so everything that you've got in traditional exams, you can use in project assessments. And lastly, just that all the results are all in one place, which hopefully makes your lives easier. Okay.